Here's the most up-to-date, detailed summary of what's known about the arrest of the former Prince Andrew, now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, based on verified news reports. Axios. British police, Thames Valley Police, arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on February 19, 2026, on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This is part of a broader investigation that emerged from newly released documents linked to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He was held for several hours and then released under investigation, meaning he's free, but the inquiry continues. Police also searched his current and former residences in Norfolk and Berkshire. Why he was arrested. The investigation centers on emails found in the so-called Epstein files, documents released by the U.S. Department of Justice that appear to show Andrew during his time as the UK's Special Trade Envoy, 2001 to 2011, forwarding confidential government reports and information to Jeffrey Epstein. Those communications include details of official trips to places like Singapore, Vietnam, and China, and even a briefing on potential investment opportunities in Afghanistan. Misconduct in public office is a serious offense in the UK, with a maximum possible sentence of life imprisonment, though being investigated does not mean he has been charged or found guilty. This arrest is highly unusual historically. It's the first arrest of a senior member of the British royal family in centuries, and shows how significantly the Epstein revelations have shaken public confidence in powerful figures. Andrew's brother, King Charles III, issued a public statement saying the law must take its course, and affirmed that the royal household would cooperate with police. Andrew's relationship with Epstein has been controversial for years. He faced civil litigation in the U.S. over sexual abuse allegations, which he denied and later settled, and was stripped of his royal titles and roles in 2025 amid the ongoing fallout from the Epstein files. The latest arrest concerns official conduct, sharing sensitive information, not the prior sexual abuse claims, though public scrutiny has been intense on both fronts. Next steps. Police say the investigation is ongoing. If prosecutors decide there is enough evidence, charges could be brought in the future. But as of now, no criminal charges have been filed. Authorities are still reviewing additional documents and may interview witnesses or gather more evidence before any decisions. What is misconduct in public office? This is a common law offense in the United Kingdom, meaning it comes from court rulings over time, not a specific statute. To charge someone, prosecutors must prove 4 key elements. The person was a public officer. They must have been serving in an official public role. In Andrew's case, this would refer to his role as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, 2001 to 2011. They willfully neglected to perform their duty, or willfully misconducted themselves. This means it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't carelessness. It must have been deliberate or reckless. If authorities believe sensitive government information was knowingly shared improperly, this is where the legal focus would be. The misconduct was serious enough to amount to an abuse of public trust. Not every rule violation qualifies. It must be serious enough that it damages confidence in public office. That's important here, because prosecutors would need to show the alleged actions weren't just inappropriate, but a serious breach of trust. There was no reasonable excuse or justification. The defense could argue information wasn't confidential. Sharing it was within diplomatic norms. There was no intent to benefit anyone improperly. What would prosecutors have to prove? In this investigation connected to Jeffrey Epstein, authorities would need to establish the information shared was confidential or sensitive. It was knowingly shared outside proper channels. It created a risk to national interests or public trust. It was done intentionally or recklessly. Possible penalty misconduct in public office is technically punishable by up to life imprisonment, though actual sentences vary widely depending on severity. Most cases involving officials typically result in several years in prison if convicted, or lesser penalties depending on circumstances. Important: arrest, charge, conviction. As reported, Thames Valley Police arrested him and released him under investigation. That means no formal charge has been filed. Evidence is still being reviewed. Prosecutors must decide whether there is enough proof to proceed. Why this is so significant? If charges were filed, it would be historically unprecedented for a senior royal. Even King Charles III publicly stating that the law must take its course underscores how seriously this is being treated. All right, here's how this works in the UK legal system. What does released under investigation mean? When Thames Valley Police arrest someone and then release them under investigation, it means they are not charged, they are not cleared, the investigation is still active, there is no court date yet. Unlike in the US, there is no automatic bail hearing unless conditions are imposed. A person can remain under investigation for months or even years while police gather more evidence. The individual is free to live normally unless specific restrictions are placed on them. Who decides whether charges are filed? Police do not make the final charging decision in serious cases. That decision is made by the Crown Prosecution Service, CPS. The CPS applies a two-stage test. Evidential test. Is there a realistic prospect of conviction? In other words, is the evidence strong? Would a jury likely convict? If the answer is no, the case does not proceed. Public interest test. Even if evidence is strong, prosecutors must ask, is prosecution in the public interest? How serious was the alleged misconduct? Did it undermine public trust? Given the high-profile nature of Prince Andrew, the public interest factor would be significant. What could happen next? There are only a few realistic outcomes. 1. No charges filed. If evidence is insufficient, the investigation ends quietly. 2. Formal criminal charges. If charged, the case would go to Crown Court. He would enter a plea, guilty or not guilty, and the case would proceed to trial. 3. Long investigation. High-profile cases involving sensitive government information can take considerable time because digital records must be reviewed, witnesses interviewed, security classifications assessed. How serious is this offense? Misconduct in public office is rare but serious. Courts look at abuse of position, damage to public trust, whether national interests were harmed. Sentences vary widely, from suspended sentences to several years in prison, depending on severity.